Glitched Attraction opens after the alleged horrifying accidents and tragedies which took place in Fazbear Entertainment's chains, creating a thrilling attraction for visitors to relive the alleged horrifying events that were reported to have taken place. Of course, what could possibly go wrong? Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator, and welcome to the Glitched Attraction, a fantastically made FNaF fan-made game. If you have any game or video suggestions, make sure to send them my way on my Twitter or subreddit. Keep in mind that this video will have spoilers of the entire FNaF franchise, and with that said, let's begin. The protagonist, seemingly being a teenager or a young adult, receives a text from his friend Kyle, who promotes a new attraction he just visited, being the new Fazbear escape room-like attraction. Kyle informs his friend that he's still there, sending him a location to meet up with him there. The protagonist, excited for this overly hyped attraction, leaps right away to the location sent, entering a warehouse-like place where he gets welcomed by an infobot who informs him about the place.
To the renewed and redesigned Fazbear attraction. Here, you will experience all the creepy stories made by lunatic haters of Fazbear Entertainment since 1987, where the robots come to life, a murderer roams the place, and accidents happen in the back rooms.
This is an attraction paying tribute to the so-called false stories people made up about Fazbear restaurants and the accidents and the tragedies that took place there, just to make it a fun attraction for the visitors for an extremely affordable price of only $14.99. The protagonist pays up, being excited to experience the horror of Fazbear Entertainment, entering the beautifully redesigned Fazbear restaurant with Freddy, Chica, Bunny, and Foxy present. The first place is a reimagination of the location of FNaF 4, which is a bedroom where monstrous animatronics hunt the protagonist. The protagonist in the game has been thought to be the crying child, as he was terrified of the animatronics, especially as his brother Michael Afton would play a harsh prank on him the same year by placing him in the mouth of Freddy, which would malfunction and clasp shut, leading to his unexpected, brutal death. This level includes nightmare animatronics such as the horrifying version of the Balloon Boy, the Nightmare Balloon Boy, who would chase after the protagonist if he is not shone by the flashlight in the appropriate times, the gigantic Nightmare Freddy, who would appear from the window deep from the woods, the Nightmare Puppet, who would have large tentacles appearing from a hole on the boarded up wall, and Nightmare Toys, who would cause the protagonist to lose his sanity. To avoid these nightmarish animatronics, the protagonist must accordingly hide from them, which is by shining his flashlight at them, hiding in an animatronic suit and closing the curtains. Meanwhile, trying to avoid the murderous animatronics, the protagonist must solve a few puzzles to get out of his room. These animatronics being transformed into such monstrous shapes depict how the crying child was so afraid of the real animatronics that he saw them, like this, being in this nightmarish form, hunting him in his own bedrooms. It has been theorized and thought that these events never actually took place and they only happened in the crying child's mind, as he was a child with an imaginative vision. After completing this stage, the protagonist enters the next, which is a circular warehouse, which is patrolled by Chica, with the mangle coming out of random vents, creating more obstacles for the protagonist. The protagonist is required to find the code to open a door where he needs to place certain gears to make a back door open. This is while winding up Freddy in a box to keep him busy, as otherwise he would break out of this box and kill the protagonist. The terrified protagonist, who didn't expect any of this to be real, runs around the corridors to find the gears in a panic and get out. Evading Chica and Mangle, all while keeping Freddy in the box, the protagonist manages to find all the gears and open the door leading out of the stage. The next stage, as he enters, takes place in a security office where the protagonist is hunted by hallucinations, making him slowly lose his sanity, preventing him from focusing on his tasks to get out in one piece. While trying to solve the puzzle and leave the stage, the protagonist is hunted by the very real Springtrap, who would kill the protagonist if he gets his hands on him. As the protagonist successfully completes the stage, he gets chased by Springtrap, whom he narrowly escapes, getting to the next place, which is the party room, with the funtime Foxy welcoming him in. The protagonist in here is tasked to complete the circus baby's buddy, who is possessed by the soul or remnant of Elizabeth Afton, the daughter of William Afton, who always wanted to make her father proud, becoming trapped in the animatronic's body subsequently for so long that her soul becomes corrupt and evil, hunting and killing other children. Watching helplessly the terrifying funtime Foxy glitching, the protagonist quickly tries to solve the puzzles and escape this room when Ballora also comes to the mix. Managing to juggle all the tasks while trying to avoid the hostile animatronics, the protagonist manages to complete Circus Baby and compile all her parts, leaving the room through an elevator when the Scoop initiative begins. The Scoop machine, or the Scooper, stands for Scalable Creation of Ulterior Presence, which is a large mechanical arm with a scooper at the end, which injects what's known as the remnant into animatronics, which we learn to be the souls of deceased people, as William Afton, alongside his colleague Henry, wanted to make the animatronics more human-like and self-aware. This process would seemingly mean the Circus Baby was assembled for William's daughter's soul, Elizabeth Afton, to be transferred into her. The elevator soon crashes and falls, with the protagonist somehow managing to survive, desperately trying to find a way to leave this nightmare-fueled place. That's when he observes in horror how the Circus Baby's body has been broken apart, with another endoskeletal entity arising, with wires and ice hanging loose haphazardly, who stares at the protagonist through a glass, starting to punch the glass in order to break it and hurt the protagonist. This entity, of course, is no other than Ennard, who is the amalgamation of multiple animatronics, being possessed by Elizabeth Afton, who is now more hostile and vengeful. Terrified to the sight, the protagonist runs with all his might, where he enters another room of the warehouse with large stackings and shelvings, creating a maze. Trapped inside with Ennard on his tail, he's forced to solve puzzles to get out of this place as soon as he can before he becomes one of the victims to this monster. The next stage the protagonist enters is the location of FNaF 6, where Henry, once the colleague of William Afton, gathered all the animatronics with the remnants, including Springtrap containing William's soul, in order to burn them all, including himself, to atone for his sins and misdoings, putting an end to this nightmare and all the murderers, as high temperatures would destroy remnants. Or at least, that's what he thought would be the end of this nightmare. The protagonist quickly solves the puzzles and leaves, coming across a computer containing many documents named Agent, Station, Disk, and Corpse. The Agent is about an animatronic which has been designed to possess high levels of dexterity, strength, and power, as if designed to be the ideal killer or the host for some sort of a soul or remnant. The Station has blueprints of a tank which processes remnants and prepares them to be injected into desired animatronics, depicting the cruel and sinister plans William had to trap souls of deceased people in monstrous animatronics. The document containing the disk file explains about a coin-sized electronic which causes the targeted person have distorted sense of reality, making them see things that aren't there. This electronic works by creating sound frequencies which impact the target's subconscious. This could explain that the protagonist has been hallucinating since the beginning, with no animatronic ever being present, with the protagonist not being in any real or imminent danger. That being said, any targeted person in the attraction could still hurt themselves trying to run away from the imaginary beings. The last file includes information about a corpse who was bludgeoned and burned to death, having metallic prosthetics implanted. There are visible signs of injury, which makes it ambiguous to how this file is related to the story, the attraction, or the protagonist. A final document labeled as REM includes information about how a specific someone has revived a person after death, using their human body, inserting an endoskeleton from the attraction to make them come to life. This person injected remnants from the souls of other deceased people into this reincarnated person, which makes the cyborg with a soul in already trap these remnants, rendering the conscience and presence of others which are in the form of remnants submissive and under control, until the main person dies with the soul. However, the more remnants are injected into this revived cyborg with a soul only, makes it live longer, bonding its soul to its body even more. It's finally revealed the cyborg is no other than William Afton, who has absorbed many remnants, who are doomed for eternity, having an unfair fate to suffer and be enslaved in the hostile and savage body of William. Unfortunately for them, they have to witness every step of the murder William Afton commits without having any control or say. As the protagonist tries to read more and understand what's going on, Vanny, the main antagonist from Security Breach, ambushes him and knocks him out cold. That's when the protagonist awakens in front of a charging pod where the burn trap is contained within. Vanny inserts what seems to be a remnant into the pod, which rejuvenates him, making him come to life when the pod opens, who attacks the protagonist in an instant. This of course refers to the documents when someone's remnant is injected into William Afton's cyborg. He rejuvenates and lives longer. Therefore, this means burn trap is a combination between William's real body and animatronic parts. Also, the person who revived William Afton's soul is no other than Vanny, as seen in this cutscene. The protagonist then goes through a loop, seeing the events of the Bite of 83 unfold, with the crying child being placed inside Freddy's mouth, which transforms the crying child into the Golden Freddy, whose embodiment appears behind the protagonist, with a cutscene showing how a human transforms into an animatronic. This might refer to both the crying child transforming into Golden Freddy or his soul becoming trapped inside, or the protagonist transforming into one after actually being killed by an animatronic. The entire story was a little convoluted towards the end, with the disc electronic giving out hints that many aspects of the game took place inside the protagonist's imagination. But at the same time, the ending showed how Vanny could be real, luring unknowing visitors into the warehouse, harvesting their remnants and injecting them into burn trap to rejuvenate it. At the end, the protagonist or whatever remained of him was seemingly killed by Freddy, who was possibly having his remaining remnant transferred into an endoskeleton, making it another trapped soul in the realistic and tormented endoskeletons or animatronics. It's unclear what happened to the protagonist's friend, Kyle, but he seemingly suffered the same fate, with Vanny using his phone to lure the protagonist into the attraction, as after all, no one in their right mind would ever invite someone into this horrifying place of torment and torture. And even worst of all, the protagonist never got his $14.99 refunded. And that's it for this video, folks. If you enjoyed it, you can stay tuned for more by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. As always, it's been your host Star. Until the next video, have a fantastic day.